Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Meetinghouse of Provincetown, where we affirm the inherent worthiness and dignity of every person, and where we support each other on our spiritual search for truth and meaning. My name is Reverend Kate Wilkinson, and I am so glad that you are here with us this morning. Welcome to those of you in the room, and welcome also to those of you joining us via our live stream. Before we begin our worship service, I have just a few announcements to share. A special welcome to all of the families in attendance today. We are especially glad that you are here. If you didn't see them on the way in, there are some children's activity packets right outside the door. You can help yourselves. Tonight's great music on Sundays at 5 concert will be the Hyannis Sound, a fabulous young a cappella group that John has invited back year after year because they are so much fun. We hope you can return for that later today. Another event tonight that might interest you is happening at the Truro Vineyards. It's a relief fundraiser for a community in Jamaica where many of our seasonal workers and friends come from. They were really hard hit by a hurricane recently, and so tonight all the money raised will go toward the recovery efforts there. On Wednesday, August 21st, we will be hosting a concert by Tom Wilson Weinberg downstairs in AB Hall. Tom has had shows at the Gifford House and the Post Office Cafe and the Provincetown Theater in the past. This time he's performing for us, and all of the proceeds of that concert will go to support the UU Meetinghouse. We hope that you can make it and can bring some friends. That's 5 p.m. on August 21st. Many thanks to Tom and to Mary Apt for pulling this together. And finally, if you are attending in person today, we hope that you will stay a little while after the service for coffee and conversation downstairs in Acker Bosworth Hall. Let's take a moment now to affirm our Meetinghouse covenant. You can find this printed on the little purple laminated cards in your pews, but I'm going to say it line by line, and you can just repeat each line back to me. Love is the spirit of this Meetinghouse.
Love is the spirit of this Meetinghouse.
This is our great covenant.
This is our great covenant.
To dwell together in peace. To seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now, as we light our chalice here in the sanctuary, we invite those of you who are watching from home to light a candle wherever you are, and that way we can feel connected even while we are apart. And this morning I invite our worship host, Vicki, and Liz to light our chalice for us.
Our chalice lighting words today are by Reverend Gretchen Haley. We are all in this together. In the midst of life's bitterness, we choose to sing, to give thanks, to laugh together, to be keepers of beauty, to offer a place of belonging for all who come, in gladness and in pain, to resist the push to the next moment and the next, to slow down, to breathe more deeply, to feel a part of something greater. For this hour and in this space, let us be the change we wish to see. Come, let us worship together.
Thank you. Would you please join me now in singing our opening hymn? It's in this teal hymnal. It's number 1000, the very first one. It's called Morning Has Come. Number 1000, Morning Has Come. Please rise as you are able. Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song. not that one. Please join me now in a time of meditation and prayer. During this time or any time during the service, you are welcome to light a silent candle at the table to the right of the pulpit, where there is a journal to record your thoughts and prayers. After the meditation, we will sing together Spirit of Life, which is hymn number 123 in the gray hymnals. You can also find the words to this song on those same purple laminated cards in your pews. We'll sing it first in English and then in Spanish. Our meditation this morning is by Richard Gilbert. In the midst of the whirling day, in the hectic rush to be doing, in the frantic pace of life, pause here for a moment. Catch your breath. Relax your body. Loosen your grip on life. Consider that our lives are always unfinished business. Imagine that the picture of our being is never complete. Allow your life to be a work in progress. Do not hurry to mold the masterpiece. Do not rush to finish the picture. Do not be impatient to complete the drawing. From beckoning birth to dawning death, we are in process, and always there is more to be done. Do not let the incompleteness weigh on your spirit. Do not despair that imperfection marks your everyday. Do not fear that we are still in the making. Let us instead be grateful that the world is still to be created. Let us give thanks that we can be more than we are. Let us celebrate the power of the incomplete, for life is always unfinished business. Amen.
The reading this morning is Map of the Journey in Progress by Victoria Safford. And I was imagining myself with a big AAA map. Here's where I found my voice and chose to be brave. Here's a place where I forgave someone against my better judgment, and I survived that. And unexpectedly, amazingly, I became wiser. Here's where I was once forgiven, was ready for once in my life to receive forgiveness and to be transformed, and I survived that also. I lived to tell the tale. This is the place where I said no, more loudly than I thought I ever could, and everybody stared. But I said no, loudly anyway, because I knew it must be said. And those staring settled down into harmless, ineffective grumbling, and over me they had no power anymore. Here's a time, and here's another, where I laid down my fear and walked right on into it, right up to my neck in that roiling water. Here's where cruelty taught me something, and here's where I was first astonished by gratuitous compassion and knew it for the miracle that it was, the requirement that it is. It was a trembling time. And here, much later, is where I returned the blessing, clumsily. It wasn't hard, but I was unaccustomed. It cycled round, and as best I could, I sent it back on out, passed the gift along. This circular motion, around and around, has no apparent end. Here's a place, a murky puddle, where I've stumbled more than once and fallen. I don't know yet what to learn there. On this site, I was outraged, and the rage sustains me still. It clarifies my seeing. And here's where something caught me. A warm breeze in the late winter, bird song in late summer. Here's where I was told that something was wrong with my eyes, that I see the world strangely. And here's where I said, yes, I know. I walk in beauty. Here's where I began to look with my own eyes and listen with my ears and sing my own song, shaky as it is. Here is where, as if by surgeon's knife, my heart has opened up. And here, and here, and here, and here. These are the landmarks of conversion.
Thank you, Vicki. Now is the time when we take a collection for the ongoing support of this Meetinghouse and our shared ministry. As we enjoy a musical reflection by our choir, we welcome your donations here in the sanctuary or online through PayPal or Venmo. You can find that information on our website, uumh.org. At this point, I invite Augie and 3 other volunteer ushers forward to take up our collection. On and off-site, your offerings will be gratefully received.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. 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 Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Lisa came home from a bicycle ride the other day with some great wisdom. I made it up the hill to Coast Guard Beach, she said proudly. The key is not to look too far in front of you. If you do that, you'll give up. But if you just focus on the next pedal, you can do it. Start close in, the poet David White says. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing, close in. The step you don't want to take. Start with the ground you know, the pale ground beneath your feet, your own way of starting the conversation. When we look too far ahead, we get overwhelmed. It's hard to muster the stamina that we know will be required. We're swallowed up by all the unknowns, the what-ifs. We realize how many possibilities there are that are far beyond our control. Everything feels daunting when you look too far ahead. But when we start close in, when we focus on just the road directly underneath us, we can pedal forward. Driving at night with the headlights on, you can only see a little ways in front of you, the novelist E.L. Doctorow once said. But you can get the whole way like that. Anne Lamott tells this story in an article she wrote for the Washington Post back in February. One rainy day, she had just caught up on all the ghastly news, and then, as a sort of counterpoint, she sat down on the floor to play with the cat. Quiet joy and peace, until the telephone rang. It was an old friend from childhood calling to say that he was hurt by something she had done. She had dissed him to an unnamed friend, he said. Anne expressed how terrible she felt that this had hurt him, that it was a dumb misunderstanding. She told him how much she loved him and asked if they could get together to talk it through. But he said no, he wasn't ready. She was stunned. I sat there a while, Anne says, partly to think about how to win him back and get him to forgive me, but also because to get up from being seated on the floor, I needed either a hand or some furniture to lean on, and found neither. I started to do a sow bug roly-poly move that I've developed, Anne says, where I roll to my side and then push up off the ground. But instead, I lay there, sad, age-old, misunderstood sow bug me. Let's put ourselves in Anne's place for a moment, shall we? Can't you just feel that dreadful feeling, that stuck on the floor, heart-sick feeling that you get when a friend is upset with you? When there's been a misunderstanding? When you aren't sure at all how to resolve things? It can eat you up. It can devour you if you let it. Any loved one's anger at me feels life-threatening at first, Anne says. I waited for him to call and straighten things out, but he didn't. After a while, I rolled awkwardly to my feet like a ton of bricks, went to the kitchen and was eating my body weight in cheese when something suddenly came to me. It was a dawning realization that this problem was, with a little time, going to sort itself out. I almost smote my forehead, Anne writes. Yo, that had not occurred to me. It was going to be okay. I actually smiled. Now, I used to let my mind get ahead of itself all the time. Instead of staying in the moment, I would go down every rabbit hole of what-ifs. Instead of waiting to see what would happen with curiosity or trust, I let each fearful scenario play all the way out in my mind. And I have a really good imagination and an overly active conscience, so I was really good at this game. But it was a game that robbed me of my peace. Do you know the worst thing that you can say to someone like my former self is? I need to talk to you about something later. Boy, does that kickstart the imagination. What terrible things could it be? Let's enumerate every fearful possibility and live in each one for an hour. Or overnight. Overnight ruminating is the best kind, isn't it? Possibilities become vivid and real in the night, robbing you of your sleep like the opposite of a dream, and this ensures that you will be both anxious and cranky the next day. The tools I needed to live more peacefully in my heart, even with all the unknowns in the world, came from an unlikely source. An excruciating summer enrolled in the clinical pastoral education program at Mass General Hospital. It was the summer between year 2 and 3 of seminary and before my year-long internship in a congregation. This was a requirement for fellowship in Unitarian Universalist ministry, a semester working at a hospital with a team of other student chaplains, under the supervision, in this case, of an extremely strict and fearsome German woman who was the head of the Clinical Pastoral Education Program, which ministers refer to in shorthand as CPE. Amidst all the chaos, death, healing, hope, and heartache of the hospital, we followed a strict set of rules. Dress in a suit. Be everywhere early. Use CalStat to sanitize your hands outside of each room. Don a gown and gloves when the signs indicate that you should. Put a sticker in the patient's chart for every interaction and read the case notes carefully, but do not add your own case notes. You are not qualified to add your own case notes. Don't pretend you know everything, or anything, really. But enter each room confidently. Introduce yourself as chaplain. Meet the patient where they are. Be prepared to craft a verbatim of every conversation that you have with them so that it can be used in a case study later for the class. Figure out, where is God in all of this? Respond to your pager calls immediately. Do not hide out in the rooftop healing garden. If you do, when you answer your pager call from there, it will show up on the supervisor's phone as healing garden. There were a lot of things to fear at the hospital. What if you couldn't find the patient's room? I mean, that place was huge. What if you said the wrong thing? What if they died? What if a family member became angry? What if no words came to you in a crucial moment? What if you couldn't decipher the handwriting in the prayer journal as you read the prayers aloud at the interfaith prayer service, which could be attended in person or streamed to any hospital room? What if you couldn't find God anywhere in any of it? Our stern supervisor stopped each of these mind rabbit holes in its track. That is a negative prediction, she would say in her thick German accent, and then she would point at the fingers on her hand and say, "What are the facts?" Under her intense stare, you would try to remember what was actually true versus what seemed so true in your rabbit warren of a mind. For each fact that you named, she would trace a finger on her hand. I am scheduled to be on call this evening. Fact. The shift is 12 hours overnight. Fact. It will end at 7 a.m. and I can go home then. Fact. I will probably watch someone die tonight. No, not a fact. That is a negative prediction. What are the facts? Okay. Some people sometimes die at the hospital. True, that's a fact. If called upon, I will go to a dying patient's room. Fact. I might not know what to say. No, not a fact. That is a negative prediction. Replace that with facts. Fact. I have prayers at my disposal to use if needed. Fact. I have prayed with people in the past. Fact. I am a chaplain. The process was terrifying but memorable as she over and over again called us back to the facts of the situation rather than the fears and predictions. I hated that summer at the hospital, but I also count the tools I learned there as some of the greatest gifts in my life. along with some lifelong friendships that were formed in my little CPE cohort, due in part to the shared intensity of the experience. I'm grateful for every reminder I get that I am not in full control of the world, that what's next is not always knowable, that sometimes the best answer is just to give things time, surrender, trust that it will all be okay in the end. I'm grateful for the reminder to just take the next right step, even if you don't know where exactly it will lead you in the end. I wanted a perfect ending, Gilda Radner once said, and now I've learned the hard way that some poems don't rhyme, and some stories don't have a clear beginning, middle, and end. Life is about not knowing, having to change, taking the moment and making the best of it without knowing what's going to happen next. Delicious ambiguity. My colleague Marisol Caballero writes, as a chaplain, I once had a patient who was dying. Though he was unable to speak, he would communicate by writing on a legal pad. He told me that he was afraid. I asked him what he was afraid of. He wrote, I've never done it before. The more I give in to the reality that I am not as in charge of and cannot plan as much of this life as I would like, Marisol says, the more I can fully experience and even come to enjoy the deliciousness of my journey's ambiguity. The truth is, we've never done it before. Not just dying, but any of it. Each step is new. Each step leads us into the unknown. Here's a place where I forgave someone. Here's a place where cruelty taught me something. And here's where I was first astonished by gratuitous compassion. We map our journey in progress, bit by bit, not seeing the whole picture, but somehow it works. This is one superpower of being old, Anne Lamott says. You know that things are probably going to work out without your tense, controlling input. Maybe you won't get your way, which I hate, but the roiled ponds of misunderstanding and hurt will settle. This is the main advice I give younger people who get troubled and stuck, Anne says. I say, yes, it sounds really awful. Just do one good thing, and then another, and breathe. You're going to be okay. I tell them what John Lennon said, everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. That day, sitting there on the ground after the unexpected phone call, Anne hadn't solved everything. She didn't have an answer. But she found enough trust in the universe to get up off the floor. I released my friend to his own process, Anne says. When you're young and vigorous, convinced you are powerful, you have the energy to try and self-will your problems into submission, she says. And it usually makes them worse. But by 60 or so, you've had enough of participating in the Punch and Judy show, of trying to get things to turn out the way you're positive they should. You've learned to surrender. Otherwise, you'll always be angry and exhausted. And that's no way to live out whatever years you have left. By dusk, the rain had stopped. There has been no word from my friend, she says, but I assume there will be in the fullness of time. And so she sat back down on the floor to play with her cat. Driving at night with the headlights on, you can only see a little bit in front of you, but you can get the whole way like that. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. Do you remember that awesome song the choir sang earlier? I want to sing it with all of you. It's number 1020 in the Teal hymnal. It's called Wo Ya Ya. Please rise as you are able. 1020, Wo Ya Ya. You may be seated.
It has become our practice to pose a question based on the theme of the service each week. It can be a topic of sharing at coffee hour today or with friends during the week. If you'd like to delve deeper into this topic, we invite you to our midweek Zoom coffee hour on Tuesday at 5 p.m. And please let Kenneth know in the office if you need that link. Our question this week is, what tools do you use for starting close in when your mind starts to race ahead into the unknown? What tools do you use for starting close in when your mind starts to race ahead into the unknown?
As we depart, may we remember that life is always unfinished business, that we are mapping a life in progress, and that quite possibly everything will be okay in the end. If everything is not okay, It is not the end. Go in peace.